Wednesday, May 24th, 2023, Lee County Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Would you call the roll, please?
Bruce Forster,
Present.
Craig Burrow,
Here.
Mike Pratt,
Here.
Rex Meyer, not present, Allie Huss.
Here.
There are no approval of previous minutes, so we will move on to new business. New business is petition 23-P-1607, the petitioner Amboy Illinois Solar 2 LLC, permanent parcel number 12-14-24-300-003 in Marion Township. Petitioner is requesting a special use for construction of a solar energy system. At this time, I would first, under, however, our rules, this body is permitted to engage the services of an independently contracted facilitator to conduct these proceedings. I will now entertain a motion to engage retired Judge Tim Slavin as the facilitator for the evidentiary, argument, and fact-finding phases of this hearing. May I have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries, and I will now turn the hearing over to that facilitator, Judge Slavin.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I also note the presence of two of the petitioners' representatives in the courtroom. The petitioners, thank you, the petitioners' attorney, Caitlin Culbertson, and I see two interested parties attending this evening as well. Welcome, good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to see all my Lee County friends once again, particularly so soon. I hope everyone is healthy, remaining safe. My name is Tim Slavin, and I'm a retired circuit judge engaged as an independent contractor to what is called facilitate this hearing. I have no adjudicatory responsibilities. I am not for or against any particular position. I am a neutral. I am here, hopefully, to add some process, organization, efficiency, and flow to these proceedings. First of all, hoping you all understand, a portion of tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals session will be taken up by organizational matters. As I give this presentation, we set some ground rules and probably do some preliminary scheduling. This is indeed Amboy Solar 2 LLC's petition, Lee County 22-P-1607, for a special use permit to develop a proposed solar energy system, acronym SES, in Marion Township here in Lee County. Initially, as opposed to some of the previous hearings over the last few years, there are no longer, applause, 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 any mandated COVID-related masking or social distancing requirements. That does not mean any of us should not be sensitive to possible risks to and fears of our neighbors, friends, and fellow attendees. As such, I simply encourage all to maintain distances when practical and certainly be respectful of others' desires to do so. I hope this all makes everyone feel medically comfortable. If not, one can also participate from your home, business, or other remote location on the Zoom video conferencing or teleconferencing platform. Or, while not being able to participate, one can watch and listen to us on YouTube. As to Zoom, the meeting ID is 915-3923-9154. And the password, and that ID will remain constant throughout this hearing. And the password will also remain the same, and it is 209840. The Zoom platform allows an interested party to actually participate. It is interactive. One may not only see and hear what is taking place, but when the appropriate stage comes, one may ask a witness questions, one may call a witness, one may testify, or one may give a closing comment. Further, in an attempt to be as transparent and inclusive as possible, we are also streaming this proceeding on YouTube. However, YouTube is not an interactive platform. On it, one can only watch and hear what is being done and said during the hearing, but not participate in it. As to YouTube, on your computer or cell phone, use your browser, go to www.youtube.com. In the search bar, type, excuse me, Lee County IL, short for Illinois, Zoning Board of Appeals. Don't be worried about or lower or uppercase letters. This should bring up a list of Lee County ZBA YouTubes. Select the date you want. If you want to watch tonight, it's presumably May 24th, 2023. Click on it and voila, you should be seeing us here in the hearing room. Please be advised that this YouTube feed will, because of those cyberspace things, have a short real-time delay. In case you're not a techno geek, for assistance with any of these machinations, you may call Ms. Duffy's technical hotline, 815-973-3449. Now for a bit more substance. There are two general groupings of attendees as this Zoning Board of Appeals hearing moves forward. One bunch I refer to as necessaries. These are people who must, as a practical matter, attend this hearing in person. They consist of your hardworking, practically volunteer Zoning Board of Appeals members, Ms. Duffy, your county's outstanding zoning officer, her fine alternative energy coordinator, Alice, your adroit state's attorney, Mr. Boonstra, and I see tonight instead of him is on Zoom is his able assistant, Stephanie Sasser. At any given time, a witness, and of course myself, and hardly least our hardworking and skilled court reporter, Callie. The other folks I will group, the other necessary is the premier necessary is the Lee County IT represented by Jonathan here, who runs the show. The other folks I will group into what I refer to as interested parties. These are those of you folks who are with us either personally or remotely on Zoom or YouTube because you simply want to observe your county government at work, or beyond that, you have a particular interest in these proceedings. The next process I will try to explain is the process for these interested parties to participate. I emphasize, please know that everyone will have the opportunity to participate, and I want to provide that opportunity to participate in a manner that is as orderly and efficient as possible. However, because of the necessary electronic filtering, my usual process becomes even more central, and I will try to flesh that out in more detail. There are many possible reasons for an interested party's appearance this evening and during subsequent sessions, whether in person or digitally. You could be simply a member of the public who's joining us as a citizen and spectator. You could be a member of the public who wants to be heard. This does not necessarily mean someone who is absolutely for or absolutely against the requested special use, but someone who wants to participate. If you are such a person, you will fall into any one or more of three subcategories. One, you want to give testimony. This means that you desire, under oath, to have you or a witness of your choice testify to facts relevant to the board's eventual decision, such as not the time to describe your feelings or announce your opinion, but to aver facts, and you are subject to being placed under oath and being cross-examined. Everyone so wishing to testify will be given one opportunity to do so. Two, you are here because you want to be able to cross-examine witnesses. But please, that is just the time to ask questions of a particular witness, not to argue with him or her, not to tell him or her things, but to ask questions. Everyone so wishing to cross-examine will be given one opportunity to cross-examine each and every witness. The third reason you could be here as an interested party is you want to give a closing statement or a public comment. That is your opportunity to give a speech, to tell the board how you feel or give them your opinion, based on the facts adduced during the whole hearing process as to what their decision should be. During this closing statement or speech stage, one cannot allege new facts. And when you think about it, the reason's very simple. The two most important parts of adducing the truth of matters at a hearing are then missing. You are not under oath, nor are you subject to cross-examination. Everyone wishing to give a closing statement, public comment, will be given one opportunity to do so. For those of us joining on the Zoom platform this evening or in the future, that interactive software allows an interested party to indicate a desire when the time comes to ask questions of witness, to present one's own witnesses, or to testify oneself, or to give a closing statement or public comment. So when I indicate the time has come to begin one of those interested party stages, I will ask for participation from the Zoomers. I guess it's sort of like boomers. If one is video conferencing, one simply clicks on the icon at the bottom center of the Zoom screen labeled Participants. Click on that, and from the options that then appear, click Raise Hand. Once you do that, we should see your raised hand here on our end in the screen, on the screen in the courtroom. If one is remotely teleconferencing, in other words, not using video, but maybe one's cell phone, while remaining connected, one hits the star or asterisk symbol, and then the Arabic numeral 9 on your phone. We should also then see any raised hands under that option as well. However, when it comes to Zoomers, I won't be able to call folks on a first raised, first come basis. So calling on the raised hands will probably be random, referring to the name, email address, or the last 4 digits of a phone number that appear on our display. Also, written comments sent in advance of this hearing or any written material intended as something for the board to consider is subject to Board Rule Article 5, Section 12, that 8 copies be provided. Any communications received that do not comply with this requirement may not be considered by the board. I will now review the chronological progress of the hearing. I know that the narration that follows is really boring and it's really tedious, but please, reciting it is for everyone's benefit to help you feel comfortable and not worry that you will not have a fair and complete opportunity to participate, but at the same time to alert you when the 3 distinct opportunity forms of participation will present. The applicant has the burden of initially going forward. Accordingly, its agent, or in this case, attorney, may first make opening remarks. Then the applicant presents evidence, one witness or document at a time. I will place each one of those witnesses under oath or affirmation. After each applicant witness, the state's attorney, the zoning officers, members of the ZBA first, and then interested parties, both on-site and remote, have the opportunity to cross-examine. And please, this is only the, sorry, I got a frog in my throat, only for questions directed to the witness testifying. After the applicant's evidence, the zoning officer has the opportunity to present witnesses and documents, and I will place each of her witnesses under oath or affirmation. After the direct examination of any zoning officer witness, first the petitioner, then the state's attorney, then members of the ZBA, then interested parties, both on-site and remote, have the opportunity to cross-examine. And once again, please, this is the time only for questions directed to the witness testifying. After the applicant and zoning officer have presented their respective evidence, then interested parties may present their witnesses or document one at a time. I will place each such witness under oath or affirmation. After each interested party witness, the applicant, the state's attorney, the zoning officer, members of the ZBA, and other interested parties have the opportunity to cross-examine. Then the applicant may or may not offer rebuttal witnesses one document at a time. I will place each such witness under oath or affirmation, and then the same questioning process ensues. If the applicant does not present any rebuttal witnesses, interested parties may not present any rebuttal witnesses. Finally, the applicant is given the initial opportunity for closing remarks, and then any interested parties will be given the opportunity for closing statements, public comments, or speeches, whichever term you prefer. All of this is simply a process designed to give all a chance to be heard in a thorough but orderly fashion. There are some minor sub-rules, after which I promise I'll be finished boring you any further. Each session has a time limit under the zoning board's rules of 2.5 hours. However, we certainly don't want to cut off anybody right in the middle of something, so I will certainly make a reasonable effort to let someone finish a particular stage when the time limit has been reached. Or, on the other hand, if there's very little time remaining at the end of a stage, I may simply continue the session rather than starting on a completely new stage. I also have, for everyone's benefit, the discretion to call for short recesses. Under the zoning board's rules, I have the duty to rule on the admissibility of evidence. While certainly the strict judicial rules of evidence do not apply, I will exercise some equitable control of what is being presented with or without an objection. We do, and we will continue to have, a fine court reporter here taking down what is said during the proceedings. I ask all to be mindful of her job. She cannot take down two people talking at once. She can't take down nodding heads or gestures. And while I happen to know how very skilled she is, there is a limit to how fast a person can talk, including me, and expect her to keep up. I do please ask for civility and decorum. This is certainly a public forum, but please be respectful enough of all those who consider it important to be here. I ask to refrain from displays of approval, disapproval, and as now with all public gatherings, I request that you either turn your cell phones off or at least to put them on silent. Lastly, your zoning board of appeals, these fine, hardworking, and practically volunteer gentlemen and lady act as finders of fact, much akin to a jury. In that role, their decisions during the last stage of the proceeding, findings of fact and recommendations, are based on the sworn testimony, admitted exhibits, and closing statements they received during the hearing process. They are your friends, your neighbors, and fellow citizens of Lee County, so please appreciate and respect their role as we move through the days ahead. I ask you not to put them in a compromised position by lobbying them, trying to lobby them, or having extra hearing conversations or correspondence until the entire hearing, including their decision, has been completed. In fact, they have been instructed to avoid these appearances of impropriety by politely telling an interested party something like, "I'm sorry, but I'm not allowed to discuss the matter until the ZBA's work of finding facts and making recommendations is completed." Thank you for your kind understanding in all of these regards. Before I forget, Ms. Duffy and I were talking beforehand. We are wondering how the zoning board and all the other necessaries feel about, excuse me, about not doing Tuesday, June 6th, but instead moving that to the next day, Wednesday, June 7th. Everybody get out your personal calendars, and I'm going to sort of take a survey right now. So we're talking about June. Yes, it won't be you folks. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's the next one we're doing, huh? We have it right now scheduled. It begins on June 5th, which that's written in stone. But instead of going back-to-back nights, we're wondering about skipping Tuesday and getting back at it again on Wednesday, the 7th. How does that fit with you, Mr. Forster?
That's fine.
Mr. Burrow?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
That's fine.
Rex Meyer, are you on Zoom? Okay. Ms. Huss? Rex, if Mr. Meyer, if you can hear me and you can attend on June 7th, would you just click raise hand? Ms. Duffy? Ms. Hinkle? Ms. Sasser, you or Mr. Boonstra? Rex raised his hand. And how about Stephanie? You can raise your hand if you. about you, Jonathan? Kelly? I'm okay. Okay. All right. Did we hear from Stephanie or? Hmm? Okay. I'll get over. Okay. Very good. Thank you for that, everyone. I think we'll, just to try and help me remember, we'll start Wusong on the 5th, but the next day will be the 7th. All right. That brings us to the business at hand. And petitioner, as I explained, has the first bite of the apple. So Ms. Culbertson, if you wish to make any opening remarks, that'd be great. If not, present your first witness or do it all at once.
I just have some very brief opening
Sure.
remarks. So, good evening. I'm Caitlin Culbertson from Elrod Friedman LLP on behalf of Distributed Solar Development LLC, or DSD, and specifically, and specifically Amboy Illinois Solar 2 LLC, which is the applicant tonight. I'm joined tonight by Jackie Bruce, Director of Development for DSD, and Andy Graham from TRC Companies, the applicant's civil engineer for the project. Again, I have some very brief opening remarks, and then I'll turn over Jackie for our detailed presentation, after which we will, of course, be available for questions and comments. As was indicated, this petition for a special use to construct, install, and operate a 6.5 megawatt direct current and 5 megawatt alternative current community solar project on an approximately 31-acre area of land located west of Peru Road and south of Amboy Road in Amboy, Lee County, or outside of Amboy, Lee County, Illinois. The proposed solar energy system will be located on Marion Township parcel 12-14-24-300-003, which is currently zoned as AG1 Rural Agricultural. The applicant will be leasing the property. The owner of the property is in full support of the project and provided a letter of support, which was provided previously to the county. Our petition was filed on February 27th, and a community meeting was held on March 8th. Notice, as required, has been provided to all non-participating parcels within 1,000 feet of the property. Notice was properly provided both of the petition and the hearing tonight, as well as a community meeting that was held in May. We have reviewed the Lee County Solar Energy System Ordinance, and we are, of course, committed to complying with all of its requirements and all other applicable requirements of the county zoning code and building codes. We understand that our proposal requires not just a special use permit, but also a building permit. Along those lines, we appreciate that the county ordinance recognizes the different levels of detail to be achieved for each of those approvals. And so, although we may not be able to answer some questions about specifics, locations of various elements of our proposal, we are confident that we can provide all the necessary and required information for you to consider and act on this proposal. And now, Jackie Bruce with a detailed presentation of our application.
All right, let's step up and raise your right hand, Ms. Bruce. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Have a seat. Same, if you'll hit the button in the front, should turn green, great. You don't have to swallow the microphone, but it does have to be reasonably close.
Do you mind putting the PowerPoint up for me, please?
And before Jackie begins, as she indicated, we have a PowerPoint and we have copies of the PowerPoint to present that we'd like to introduce as petitioners exhibit 1.
Okay,
And do I give those
just if
out?
you would hand each of the ZBA members one, or hand 4 to Ally and she can pass it around. Then 1 to Dee and Alice and 1 to Kelly and I.
And I do have enough, so I'm going to give them to the other gentleman as well.
Great. Did you give Kelly one?
Oh, I will give her one.
Thank you.
I miraculously labeled the exact number.
Great.
All right, thank you.
May I begin?
Why don't you at least ask her some opening questions?
Of course. Can you tell us your name?
Sure. My name is Jackie Bruce. I work for, Distributed Solar Development LLC, also known as DSD, and I am the Director of Development for the East Coast.
And I understand that you have a presentation tonight on our application.
I do.
Okay, and if you could proceed with the presentation.
Is it visible on Zoom as well, Jonathan? Thank you. Okay. Good evening, Judge, Ms. Bodmer, members of the Lee County Zoning Board of Appeals, staff, members of the public in the room, on Zoom, and watching on YouTube. As I said, my name is Jackie Bruce. I work at DSD as the Director of Development for the East Coast, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Amboy Illinois Solar 2 LLC. We are here seeking, go to the next slide. Thanks. We're here seeking a special use permit in accordance with the Lee County Ordinance for Solar Energy Systems, Ordinance number 11.22.008, to develop a 6.5 megawatt direct current, also known as DC, 5 megawatt alternating current, also known as AC, community solar project. Amboy 2 is proposing this project on approximately 31 acres of land located within Marion Township parcel number 12-14-24-300-003, which is approximately 154.7 acres in size. It is currently zoned as AG1 Rural Agricultural. The parcel is owned in trust by Mr. David Lyons, with whom Amboy 2 has a lease. Currently, the entire parcel is included in the lease. Once the project design is finalized, if we receive our special use permit, the leased area will be redefined as the specific acreage within which the project is proposed, including any areas required for landscape buffers. Go to the next slide, please. Great. Next slide, thanks. Okay. Distributed Solar Development LLC first launched in 2017 as GE Solar and subsequently rebranded itself as DSD in 2019. It's headquartered in Schenectady, New York. DSD is backed by one of the largest clean energy investment platforms in the world, known as BlackRock Real Assets, and has raised over $1.5 billion in project funds to not only design, build, and operate solar installations, but to also finance and own them for the long term. To date, DSD maintains 325 megawatts DC of projects in operation across 24 states and has over 500 megawatts DC in varying stages of development and construction nationwide. The key message is that DSD will be responsible for the development and construction of the project and will also be the long-term owner and operator with dedicated team members involved every step of the way. Next slide, please. All right, now specific to the project. In accordance with the solar ordinance, Amboy 2 planned and hosted a community information meeting on March 8th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Amboy Community Center located at 280 West Wasson Road in the city of Amboy, Illinois. Amboy 2 sent notifications for this meeting via certified mail on February 24th to the Lee County Board, the zoning administrator, the Marion Township Board, and all persons who own real estate within 1,000 feet of the proposed solar boundary. 4 project representatives attended the meeting and spoke to approximately 10 to 12 individuals from the community who attended with specific questions about the project. As shown on the image on the left, this layout was presented during the meeting. As you can see, the project was proposed in the northwestern corner of the parcel. Feedback was received from those who attended that moving the project to the northeastern corner would move it further from the neighbors, as well as work better with the existing irrigation system. So Amboy 2 went back and redesigned the project. And the image on the right of the screen is what is included in the application that was submitted to the ZBA. The redesigned project moved the facilities much farther away from most of the adjacent neighbors and allows the existing irrigation system to swing in its existing circular fashion for the remainder of the parcel. Next slide, please. The project that is proposed is a 6.5 megawatt DC, 5.5 megawatt AC, single access photovoltaic solar tracking facility. It's proposed to occupy approximately 31 acres and will be completely encompassed by a 7-foot agricultural type post and woven wire fence with a 6-inch wildlife gap running along the bottom. The project is being designed to satisfy any fencing and equipment setback requirements required by Lee County, and no variations are being requested by Amboy 2. The SES is proposed on the southwestern corner of the intersection between Amboy Road, a county road, and Peru Road, a township road. From a landscape perspective, the project plans to incorporate native grasses, flowers, and plants with designated pollinator habitat zones and bee nesting logs. Visual screening to mitigate views of the project from adjacent residences is proposed in specific locations and will be addressed on a case-by-case basis. What is included in the application is a preliminary landscape plan. If approved for a SUP, the project design will be finalized and a landscape plan will be developed by an Illinois licensed landscaped architect. That plan will be priced out, and Amboy 2 will approach all adjacent neighbors, giving them an option for either the landscape buffer or the cost of that landscape buffer to do themselves. This offer will be made both verbally and in writing at the appropriate time. A single access road is proposed to extend south off Amboy Road. It would require improvement of the agricultural access that currently exists in the area. Amboy 2 will work with the county board to obtain a road use agreement for the project at the appropriate time. We did reach out to David Anderson, the Lee County engineer, to discuss the road use agreement and consulting fund, but guidance was given to wait until after the zoning process was concluded. The photovoltaic solar system will be equipped with a full-featured monitoring solution that tracks energy production, weather data, irradiance, module temperature, inverter status, the AC output of each inverter, and the DC current and voltage for each inverter input. In addition, security cameras pointing to the pad-mounted transformers will be installed. Overall, once operational, the project will be unmanned. No lighting is proposed for the project. Excuse me. The FAA notice criteria tool was run for the project in March of 2023 and returned a result of that you do not exceed notice criteria and no filing was required. Based on our experience building these facilities nationwide, no communication interference is anticipated to result from the project. The SES will produce minimal sound with noise fading as you get farther away and will not violate any noise regulations. If any complaints are received regarding noise or interference, Amboy 2 is committed to responding and resolving the issue as soon as possible. Inverters will be spaced throughout the arrays, and the project will tie into the existing distribution lines that parallel Amboy Road via underground conductors to the point of interconnection, which is a utility pole that will be specified by ComEd. Next slide, please. Amboy 2 initiated a natural resource review consultation with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, also known as IDNR, through the department's online EcoCat program for the entire parcel. No resources were identified. The Illinois Natural Heritage Database contained no record of state-listed threatened and endangered species, Illinois Natural Area Inventory Sites, dedicated Illinois nature preserves, or registered land and water reserves in the vicinity of the project. In addition, a wetland and stream delineation survey was conducted to identify constraints and guide Amboy 2 in the selection of the best location within the parcel. No resources were identified. Amboy 2 is designed to avoid all impacts to natural resources, including wetlands, streams, and wildlife. In addition, a desktop review through the Illinois SHPO identified that the nearest National Register of Historic Places historic property is more than 4 miles away from the parcel, to the east in the city of Amboy. Next slide, please. Amboy 2 will adhere to the Agricultural Impact Mitigation Agreement, also known as an AMA, standards addressing soil retention and restoration issues. For our soil survey, we use the USDA NRCS Illinois Soil Survey Geographic Database. This data matches the soil data provided by the Lee County Soil and Water Conservation District and are the same soils mapped in the Lee County Soil Survey. A stormwater management plan signed and sealed by an Illinois licensed professional engineer will be submitted to the county engineer before the issuance of a building permit. In addition, a drainage permit in accordance with the county stormwater management ordinance, Lee County Code 11-4, will be obtained for the project. We will be working with a local contractor to complete a full drainage investigation, which will include locating any existing drainage tiles. Amboy 2 is dedicated to minimizing impact to any drainage tiles during construction and will restore them to the same or better state as to when construction began. We are currently working with Mr. Tom Huddleston of Huddleston and McBride Land Drainage Service based out of Rochelle, Illinois, to conduct the drainage investigation. Lastly, a FEMA flood insurance rate map was included in our application as Figure 4. It shows there are no mapped floodplains within or surrounding the project area. Next slide, please. The parcel has a land evaluation score of 75 and a site assessment score of 125, based on the report provided by the Lee County SWCD. From a productivity index score based on acre value, the parcel has a score of 110. From a landscaping perspective, although portions of the project site will be taken out of agricultural production for the duration of the project life cycle, Amboy 2 is proposing a dual use between solar generation and continued agricultural activities, either livestock grazing or crops, which will be determined with the landowner and tenant farmer. In the areas of the project site not being proposed for agrovoltaics, the ground cover will consist of native plant species with a focus of providing pollinator habitat. Prior to construction, Amboy 2 will enter into and adhere to an AMA with the Illinois Department of Agriculture pursuant to 505 Illinois Compiled Statutes 147/15. To the extent that it aligns with or is more restrictive than the executed AMA, the project will abide by the Lee County ordinance requirements for prime farmland. Disturbance to prime farmland caused by construction and operation of the project shall be minimized via the direct embed for racking foundation and single access trackers. No concrete is anticipated for the foundations of the trackers at this time. At the conclusion of the project's operational life, Amboy 2 is committed to decommissioning the project and returning the project site to pre-project conditions or as otherwise agreed to with the landowner. Next slide, please. Okay. Although a detailed construction schedule is not available and was not presented at the community information meeting, we did discuss durations with those present at the meeting, and they're here on the slide. These assume, again, that the various steps required for the project go smoothly. A detailed construction plan with specific equipment specifications will be submitted with the building and electric permit application. If approved through the various stages, the project would target mobilization for April 2024, with equipment delivery taking 1 to 2 months, racking installation estimated to take 3 months, which would include between 10 and 12 weeks of pile driving. It does depend on weather, so if the weather is in our favor, it will go faster. Module installation is estimated to take 2 months. Electrical work can take between 2 to 4 months with the utility, and mechanical completion is targeted for July of 2024, with substantial completion targeted for November of 2024. Overall, this timing is subject to permitting approval, community solar incentive program qualification, utility interconnection approval, weather, and the timing of equipment delivery. Next slide, please. Amboy 2 will participate in the Illinois Power Agency's latest version of its community solar program, known as the Adjustable Block Program. The program was part of the Governor's Climate and Equitable Jobs Act that was signed into law in September of 2021. One of the requirements to qualify for the Adjustable Block Program is a special use permit, which is why Amboy 2 is here tonight. If accepted into the Adjustable Block Program, Amboy 2 will contract with an experienced community solar subscription manager, also known as an aggregator, to enroll subscribers into the program, which will comprise of a combination of commercial, industrial, and residential customers. In order to qualify, you simply have to be a resident that pays a monthly utility bill and located within the specific utility territory, which in this case is ComEd. Amboy 2 will comprise of at least 50% residential subscribers, and under the program rule, no subscriber may subscribe to more than 40% of the project. Based on the subscriber's consumption of the project's monthly solar energy output, subscribers to Amboy 2 will receive clean energy credits on their monthly utility bill and billed for those credits at a discount rate, thus saving money on a monthly basis. Savings typically range between 8 to 10% per month, but ultimately depend on the quantity of solar energy generated by the community solar project. Next slide, please. The project will generate property taxes. It will be a quiet, tax-paying member of the community that does not require any municipal services. The Illinois Department of Revenue has put out a standardized method to assess the fair cash value of commercial solar facilities. And based on this, annual property taxes from the solar project is expected to be about $21,000 per year. The project will allow residents of the community to benefit from clean energy, particularly those who do not have the ability to install solar on their own roof or have the land to install clean energy facilities, while saving them money on their monthly electric bill at the same time. In conclusion, Amboy 2 looks forward to working with Lee County on this project. Thank you.
Okay. Any follow-up questions, Ms. Culbertson?
Yes, I'm just going to go through some clarifying and just more specific questions for Jackie. To start with, can you tell us a little bit more about DSD? What does it do?
DSD designs, builds, and operates solar facilities and also finances and owns them for the long term.
And by whom is it owned?
DSD is backed by one of the largest clean energy investment platforms in the world, known as BlackRock Real Assets.
And then would Amboy Illinois Solar 2 develop, construct, operate, and maintain this proposed project?
Yes.
And will you, on behalf of the applicant or petitioner, commit to being bound by any and all proposals, promises, statements, and representations in the application for a special use permit or made under oath at the public hearing before the Lee County ZBA?
Yes.
In addition, will you commit on behalf of the petitioner, if there are any project successor and interest, to ensuring that subsequent entity will be bound by this exact same thing?
Yes.
How, with respect to community solar, how does the developer solicit and find subscribers?
Amboy 2 will hire an experienced community solar subscription manager, also known as an aggregator.
And is the only qualification to be a subscriber that you're a ComEd customer?
Yes.
And will local county citizens be given any preference?
We will encourage our aggregator to reach out to local Lee County residents and give them an opportunity to subscribe.
Can someone subscribe to more than one community solar project?
The Illinois Adjustable Block Program does allow multiple subscriptions.
And what benefit does a subscriber gain?
Subscribers gain discounted electricity and access to clean renewable energy.
Can you tell us the useful life of the panels that will be used for the project?
The useful life is estimated to be 25 to 35 years.
And what is the anticipated useful life of the project?
It's anticipated to be 25 to 35 years.
Can you tell us the length of the lease that the applicant has for the property?
The existing lease is for 25 years with 2 5-year optional extensions.
And you, in your presentation, gave an anticipated construction schedule. Was this presented at the community meeting?
Although the construction timeline was discussed, exact dates were not presented.
But the construction schedule in the presentation is what's anticipated, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Was a decommissioning plan presented?
High-level decommissioning details were shared verbally with attendees, but no formal decommissioning plan was presented.
And did the developer perform, with respect to historical structures, an ISHPO-Hargis survey? And I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly.
Yes, an Illinois State Historic Preservation Office Hargis survey was conducted and determined that the nearest structure on the National Register of Historic Places was over 4 miles away, east in the city of Amboy. The parcel was not within an Illinois Historic Preservation District designated high probability area, therefore no archaeological survey was conducted.
And you spoke of how within the application, a dual use is proposed for the project site, where, you know, there would be grazing or crops, and grazing would occupy the same place as the transformers and inverters. Are those compatible uses?
Yes,
And will the developer commit to abiding by the Lee County ordinance requirements as to prime farmland?
yes.
Can you tell me how many PV panels are proposed for the SES?
Based on the design presented in the application, which is preliminary at the state, approximately 10,080 modules are proposed. This assumes a Hanwha 580 watt module.
And what are the dimensions of the panels?
The panels each are 95.1 inches by 44.7 inches by 1.38 inches, again, assuming the Hanwha 580 watt modules.
Can you tell us the maximum tilt for the panels?
Single axis trackers follow the sun throughout the day, and they will rotate from plus 52 degrees to minus 52 degrees. This assumes a specific type of racking as proposed in the preliminary design, which is an ATI racking DuraTrack HZV3. If racking manufacturers change, the rotation could change slightly. An example of this is Nextracker has a 60 degree to 60 degree rotation tilt.
And what would be the height above grade at maximum tilt?
At maximum tilt, the height is 9 feet.
Right. And with respect to racking, how would racking be supported?
Pile-driven posts.
And how deep would those support poles be?
Based on our experience and known conditions in the area, posts will be driven to a depth of between 7 and 10 feet. However, exact depths for direct embed will depend on the results of a geotech survey.
And how would they be set into that depth?
Posts will either be auger or pile-driven.
Will they be cemented?
No cement for these posts are proposed at this time, but it does depend on the geotech results.
And how many transformers are proposed?
2 transformers are proposed.
What about inverters?
Approximately 30 inverters are proposed. In the layout in the application, it assumes an SMA Sunny High Power Peaks 3 150-US model.
And is it correct that the electrical connection lines between panels and sections will be buried?
Yes,
And will there also be communication lines between panels?
yes,
Will they be buried too?
yes,
And you said that you submitted a current FEMA FIM, and that's figure 4, correct?
that is correct.
And so figure 4 is a snapshot of that map, correct?
It's an excerpt of the FEMA firm for the area in which the project site sits, and it's overlaid on an aerial image. As shown, no floodplains lie within the project site or entire host parcel, and the nearest floodplain is to the southeast along the Green River, approximately 0.6 miles from the parcel boundary farther to the project site, which is in the northeastern corner of the parcel.
And then figure 5 in the application is from the Lee County Soil Survey, correct?
Yes,
And were any pipelines located?
no pipelines were located within the parcel.
And how was the attempt made to locate the pipelines?
An American Land Trust Association or ALTA land survey was conducted and included a review of the title, and no pipelines were identified.
Is there anything showing the type and percentage coverage of existing vegetation?
Existing conditions based on the Lee County's GIS portal are depicted in Figure 1. And as shown in aerial imagery, the parcel is currently in use for row crops.
Is there anything showing the location of drainage tiles?
No,
Did the developer do a drainage tile survey?
not yet.
Is one planned?
Yes,
When?
it's planned for midsummer or once this process is concluded.
And who will do that survey?
We're working with Mr. Tom Huddleston of Huddleston and McBride Land Drainage Service, which is based out of Rochelle, Illinois.
Have you submitted a Lee County Soil and Water Conservation District Natural Resources Information Report?
Yes.
And where is the planned point of interconnection shown?
The project will tie into the existing distribution lines that parallel Amboy Road via underground conductors to the point of interconnection, which will be a utility pole to be specified by comment.
And is it correct that there are 2 equipment pads proposed?
Yes.
And what is the composition of those pads?
Each pad is proposed to include a pad-mounted switchboard and transformer.
Will both transformers and inverters be mounted on those pads?
No, inverters will be spaced throughout along the racking.
And how wide is the proposed access road?
The proposed access road is 12 feet wide, comprised of clean gravel.
And how will that be constructed?
Topsoil will be removed to create a level path and allow for the placement of 1 to 4 inches of clean gravel atop a layer of non-woven geotextile fabric,
To what depth?
a minimum of 12 inches.
What will be done with any topsoil removed to construct the access road?
Topsoil will be stored on site and used for the landscape buffer plantings or to enhance areas to be seeded with native pollinator species. No topsoil will be removed from the parcel.
And does the access road entrance already exist as a field entrance?
Yes.
And is the AG equipment staging area that's noted on C400 a temporary laydown yard for what would be SES construction use? Already existing farm equipment access lot? An already existing access lot?
This area was proposed on this specific drawing to be used for the support of dual-use agrovoltaic equipment. During construction, it may be used for a temporary laydown, but it was merely indicating where equipment related to agrovoltaics would be stored.
And will all components of the project site be under 20 feet in height?
Yes.
And with respect to fencing, will there be any signage on the fence other than the shown on the vehicle entrance gate?
We typically include a sign at the entrance to indicate the site name, the owner, and a contact number.
And would the signage be in accordance with NEC, ANSI, and OSHA standards and regulations?
Yes.
And will the fencing be topped with barbed wire?
No.
Does the weed control plan encompass preventing the growth of woody vegetation and noxious weeds along and within it?
Yes.
And is the setback of 15 feet from all property lines to any piece of SES equipment?
Yes, a minimum of 15 feet setback from any SES equipment.
And what is the closest distance with respect to the fence?
Fencing at the closest point is 20 feet from the roadway easement that runs along the eastern boundary of the parcel. SES equipment, the panels themselves, are set back a minimum of 20 feet from the fence line.
And I'm sorry, I think I missed a phrase of that last question. Is there a minimum setback from all property lines to any piece of proposed SES equipment?
Yes.
And is there a minimum setback of 400 feet from any foundation of an adjacent non-participating primary dwelling to any piece of the proposed SES equipment?
Yes.
And what is the closest distance?
The fence is located 403 feet from the foundation of the nearest non-participating primary dwelling. The modules are an additional minimum of 20 feet from the fence.
Is Amboy Road a township or a county road?
I believe it's a county road.
What about Peru Road?
I believe Peru Road is a township road.
And is there a minimum setback of 60 feet off the center line of a township roadway or 75 feet from the center line of a county roadway to any piece of proposed SES equipment?
Yes.
And do you know what the closest distance is?
Modules are at least 115 feet off the center line of Amboy Road, which is County Road 14, and at least 63 feet off the center line of Peru Road, which we believe is a township road.
And did you do a search to determine if there was any platted subdivisions in the area?
I searched the publicly available information on the Lee County website, and I searched for 1 mile radius, and I didn't find any.
So from your search, it appears that there's at least a minimum of 400 feet from the property line of any platted subdivision, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
And is there a minimum setback of 500 feet from any dwelling for any inverters, transformers, and/or storage equipment that are part of the proposed project?
Yes.
What is the closest distance?
The closest transformer, pad-mounted transformer, is approximately 755 feet from the nearest foundation of the nearest non-participating residence.
And were any waivers obtained?
No.
And are all proposed fences set back a minimum of 3 feet from property lines?
Yes.
Are there any fences around adjacent non-participating dwellings?
No.
Are there any fences around a platted subdivision?
No.
And were the developer provided 2 equipment manufacturer specs in its application material standard examples? Or are they specific to the proposed project?
Those included in the application were specific to the design in the application itself.
And what is the Sunny High Power Peak 3 piece of equipment?
It's an inverter.
And do you commit to providing all equipment manufacturer specs before a building permit can be issued?
Yes.
And will the developer have a qualified engineer that will certify that the foundation and design of the solar panels is within accepted standards before a building permit is issued?
Yes.
And will the petitioner make sure that it and its equipment would adhere to all applicable industry standards, codes, and best practices,
Yes.
as well as local, state, federal rules, regulations, laws pertaining to electricity generations and transmission,
Yes.
as well as the National Electrical Code?
Yes.
And lastly, that all pieces of equipment would be listed by underwriters, laboratories?
All equipment will be listed either on Underwriters Laboratory UL or another nationally recognized testing laboratory.
And how far is the nearest airport?
I believe the nearest airport is Dixon Municipal Airport, which is 8.8 miles north of the parcel and project site.
What about airstrip?
Believe the nearest airstrip is Rasmussen, RASMUSSEN landing strip, which is 1.75 miles southwest of the project site, 1.4 miles southwest to the parcel boundary itself.
And did you provide a fire protection plan for the construction and operation of the facility?
No.
When will you do so?
A fire protection plan will be provided at the building and electric permit stage of the process.
Will the developer commit to entering into one or more road use agreements as required by the Lee County ordinance?
Yes.
If the requested special use is granted, when do you presently intend to begin construction?
We're estimating construction to begin in April of 2024.
And how long will the construction take?
Approximately 8 months.
And with respect to traffic during construction, can you tell us approximately how many delivery trucks you anticipate daily, and what roads they might use and where the vehicles may park?
Sure. Based on the design included in the application, estimates were made that in the first 2 to 3 weeks of the project, delivery would occur for the majority of the equipment. Approximately 10 to 15 tractor trailers would be required to deliver the panels, again, 10,080 modules. Approximately 5 to 10 flatbeds would be required to deliver the racking. And throughout the course of the construction project, approximately 25 trucks would be required for electrical delivery. Throughout construction daily, it's estimated that approximately 15 cars, vans, or trucks would be required to deliver manpower for construction, and they would park within the project site itself. The exact route for construction is unknown, but they would take, of course, the surrounding roads that have an appropriate weight and height capacity to allow for delivery vehicles.
You said the construction will take on the SES approximately 8 months, correct?
Yes.
And how long will pile driving take?
Pile driving for a 6.5 megawatt DC project is estimated to take about 10 to 12 weeks, weather dependent.
Is there an anticipated days of the week and hours anticipated for construction work that will be done?
We typically work 5 days, Monday to Friday, ranging around 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., depending on the light and time of year. But the project will follow whatever restrictions Lee County puts in place.
Will there be security cameras located within the project site?
Yes, security cameras are proposed pointing at the pad-mounted transformers.
And would it be correct to assume that the noted Knox box would contain a key to the vehicle entrance gate?
Yes,
Has the developer entered into an AMA?
not yet.
When is that anticipated to be done?
Upon approval of the SUP, Amboy 2 would begin discussions with the Illinois Department of Agriculture and would enter into an AMA by the building and electric permit process.
Did you have a communications analysis commissioned?
No,
You indicated in the application that the project poses no communication interference is anticipated. Can you explain on what basis you've made that conclusion?
it's based on our experience developing these solar facilities nationwide.
And is there any lighting planned for the project?
No lighting is proposed at this time.
And if lighting is ever added, will it be full cutoff fixtures?
If lighting is ever added, the fixtures will be full cutoff, although none is proposed at this time.
What will create any noise from the proposed project, if anything?
The pad-mounted transformers are anticipated to produce a low level of noise similar to an operating air conditioning unit.
Did you have a noise study conducted?
No,
Will any noise exceed the Illinois Pollution Control Board standards?
no.
Can you explain the basis of that conclusion?
Based on our experience operating solar facilities, sound levels are expected to be similar to an operating air conditioning unit and diminish quickly with distance. With more than 750 feet to the nearest residence from the nearest transformer, no sound impacts are anticipated to result from the SES.
And will the Illinois Pollution Control Board standards be exceeded during construction?
No,
Did you have a glare analysis done?
no.
Can you explain why the project is not expected to have any significant adverse impact on neighboring or adjacent uses based on glare?
The single axis tracker system allows the modules to follow the sun throughout the day, continuously maintaining an approximately 90-degree angle with the sun, preventing and minimizing any light refraction. In addition, panels are designed with an anti-reflection technology.
And if the project does produce significant glare, what will be done to mitigate it?
Complaints are received, the situation will be assessed, and additional landscaping screening may be proposed in key locations.
But this is certainly not expected, correct?
No,
Again, there's no platted subdivision in the area of the proposed project, correct?
not that I was able to find.
And how many residential properties are adjacent to the proposed project?
There are 3 residences on adjacent parcels.
Have each of those residents been offered the Lee County ordinance-driven screening options?
Not yet. Although the landscape plan that's included in the application is designed, it's a preliminary design based on a preliminary layout. If the project is approved for an SUP, the design will be finalized and a landscape plan will be developed by an Illinois licensed landscape architect. That plan will then be priced out and adjacent landowners, property owners will be approached to select either the landscape buffer or the equivalent payout.
And was this discussed at the community meeting?
Discussions were had with adjacent neighbors at the community meeting, although no specifics were just, were offered at the time.
So at a more formal outreach will occur later at the appropriate time, correct?
Correct.
Is there any outdoor storage plan for the proposed project?
Yes.
Can you describe what that is?
There's an ag equipment storage area proposed for equipment related to vegetation maintenance and agrovoltaics.
Would the PV panels be cleaned?
Just by the rain.
And would any solid waste be created by the construction or operation of the project?
Only minimal solid waste is expected to be generated during construction. No solid waste is expected to be generated during the operation of the project.
How will any solid waste that's created be disposed?
So, any solid waste generated during construction will be disposed of in accordance with applicable rules and regulations.
Will any hazardous material be used or created by the construction or operation of the project?
No,
Are any batteries planned for the project?
no,
And will the developer commit to purchasing and maintaining the various insurance coverages mandated by the Lee County ordinance?
yes.
And I think you already went through this in their presentation, but just to confirm, can you tell us what the land evaluation score for the project site is?
The land evaluation score for the entire parcel is 75.
What about the site assessment?
The site assessment score for the entire parcel is 125.
And the productivity index of the ground upon which the proposed project would lay?
The productivity index based on acre value for the entire parcel is 110.
And will there be any vibrations coming from the operation of the proposed SES?
No.
What about during construction?
Possible vibration is expected from any pile driving activities. However, vibration should be limited to within 10 feet around the activity itself.
And once they're in the ground, that vibration ceases, correct?
That's correct.
And would there be any air pollution coming from the operation of the proposed SES?
No,
What about during construction?
no,
Do you anticipate any odors coming from the operation of the proposed SES?
no.
What about during construction?
Nothing more than a typical construction site.
So the same like trucks or gasoline, anything that if you were just building anything like a house would just those types of odors, correct?
That's correct.
Would there be any electromagnetic field surrounding any equipment in this proposed SES?
No,
Would there be any heat emanating from the operation of this proposed SES?
the panels do get warm in the sun, hot to the touch with some heat, similar to a black car sitting in the sun. You wouldn't want to touch it.
What about during construction?
No,
Would there be any fire or explosion hazard associated with this proposed SES?
no increased fire risk is expected as a result of the project's construction or post-construction operation. In accordance with the Lee County Solar Ordinance, a fire protection plan will be created prior to the building permit application.
What about during construction?
No,
Would there be any toxic or noxious materials used or created by the operation of this SES?
no,
How about during construction?
no,
During construction or operation, I suppose, how would human waste be handled?
During construction, a portable toilet or a porta potty would likely be used. It's an unmanned facility during operation, so
Are there any permanent structures presently existing within the proposed project site?
no. May I qualify that?
Of course.
To qualify, there's an irrigation system, so it's not an inhabitable structure, but there is something existing on the parcel. Mhm.
Okay, understood. Did the developer have a real estate property value study done?
No.
And what, if any, effect would the proposed SES have on nearby real estate property values?
No effect is anticipated.
And on what do you base this opinion?
It's based on our experience building and operating these facilities. We also have a Solar Energy Industry Association study that I'd like to enter into.
Yes. And we have copies of this study that Jackie just spoke of that we'd like to enter in as petitioners
Pet
exhibit
two.
2.
Pet two, thanks.
And
Well, just one thing at a time.
I can pass them around.
That'd be great. Thank you. Off the record, Ms. Culbertson, you're free, of course, to ask any more questions you want. Sometimes around now, we take a break. If you have a
I'm
few more, let's
close
go.
to
But if you
being
have,
done. I'm very close to being done,
Okay.
I promise.
no, I'm not,
Oh.
I mean,
I
was gonna be another 15
imagine everyone's
minutes.
ready for a break.
okay, back on the record.
Okay.
Okay, so the study that just was passed out, it was issued by the Solar Energy Industries Association, also referred to as SEIA. It's a real estate study. It was done in Illinois, primarily on utility scale projects, but the results of the study show that no property value impacts occurred in association to adjacent solar facilities.
And how does the proposed SES fit within the Lee County Comprehensive Plan?
In the Lee County Comprehensive Plan, the county encourages the use of green energies, including solar, and emphasizes the need to diversify alternative energies, energy generation.
And in your opinion, is it compatible with the comprehensive plan?
Yes.
Would there be any preference for local labor during construction or operation of the proposed SES?
Amboy 2 runs a competitive bid process for the construction of the project. While Amboy 2 can indicate a preference for local labor and factor that into the subcontractor selection process, ultimately labor will be the decision of the selected construction subcontractor.
And what would be the amount of annual real estate tax produced by the proposed SES?
As I said in my presentation, based on the standardized method to assess the fair cash value of commercial solar facilities issued by the Illinois Department of Revenue, property tax in the project is expected to be approximately $21,000 per year.
And would this proposed SES require any public utilities or services during its construction or operation?
No.
And what would be the benefits of the proposed SES to the city and participating landowner?
The host landowner will receive an annual lease payment.
And how much would you estimate that a subscriber to this community solar project would save on his or her monthly or annual electric bill?
Savings typically range between 8 and 10% per month, but ultimately depend on the quantity of solar energy generated by the community solar project.
And what would be the benefit of the proposed SES to the local electric power quality?
Diversification of energy generation improves reliability of the whole system.
And how many average homes could be powered by the electricity produced by this proposed SES?
Based on the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the average annual electricity consumption of a house or of a residence is 10,632 kilowatt hours. Based on this number, the proposed SES could power approximately 1,052 households.
And finally, can you testify again? I know you said this in your presentation, but just the direct community benefits would Amboy, Illinois Solar to provide to the local community?
The project will be a silent, tax-paying member of the community that does not use any municipal services. In addition, the project will provide access to clean, renewable energy and allow subscribers to save money.
I have no further questions.
Okay, let's take a break. Say 25 after. Record. You finished your questioning. So let's go around the horn. Ms. Sasser, any questions of Ms. Bruce? Raise your hand, please, if you got any. Okay. Ms. Duffy?
Nothing, sir.
Ms. Hinkle?
With regard to the UL listing requirement, you stated that you would use UL or a similar company. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would you commit to informing, let me rephrase that. If you choose to use somebody other than UL, do you agree to have the zoning administrator approve that company prior to engaging their services?
Yes.
With regard to the drainage tile survey, would that be completed prior to the building permit?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Okay, members of the zoning board, Mr. Forster,
No questions.
Mr. Burrow?
Yes, please. I've got a couple, Miss Bruce. What, and you may have covered this and I didn't pick it up. What's your tenure with the company?
I've been at DSD since December of 2021.
Oh, okay. We've had some questions about the community solar thing in the past. Are you familiar with that program? Does this only cover electricity only on the bill and no transmission, or does it cover everything on a residence participating electricity bill? Are you familiar with that or not?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Can you
Well-
repeat?
The solar companies either cover the electricity cost or the transmission. Some things don't cover both. Some programs don't cover the cost of electricity. And then if this is ComEd you're dealing with, I assume.
That's correct.
Okay, so ComEd is not in the generating business now, but is in the transmission business. So you can get your electricity from anybody. So there's two different portions to your bill. So do you think this covers 100%? I mean, all the bill, or what did you state? How much percentage of the bill might you save on being with the community solar?
Savings is typically 8 to 10% on the electricity bill. So I
Okay,
believe
nice.
it's the electricity itself. Mhm.
So that's on the total bill that somebody would get for a month. That would be electricity cost and transmission cost, you think? That's what it looks like.
That's my understanding,
Okay,
yes.
okay. What's the area of the leasehold that you're looking at putting the solar system on, the acres?
The acreage, well, right now we have a lease for the entire parcel as we decide where the project will go.
Okay.
And we're looking at the northeastern corner. The fenced area is approximately 29.9 acres.
Okay.
And we're estimating an additional acre for areas for landscape buffer and any surrounding areas we would need to maintain between the fence line and the parcel boundary.
Do you know how large your laydown area is, roughly how many acres that is?
We're working within the leased area, which would be about 31 acres, and there's no specific laydown area proposed at this time.
Okay. Your entrance road then, according to your drawings, will be off of Amboy Road then, is that correct?
That is what's proposed, yes.
Okay, is that the only entrance you have then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Since you're in the business, what's the availability of getting the equipment to build an SES, the aisle driving and the panels? What's your time frame or in the industry for getting that stuff?
It's been very variable during, since COVID. Availability has been limited. There's been issues with the supply and supply chain. Looking forward, different pieces of equipment are taking different lengths, anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks for something like a switchboard to upwards of 40 weeks for a transformer, which is why we're looking to get this approval, get the SUP if that's what the ZBA and the county board decide to do, finalize the design by mid to late summer, work through the rest of the process and begin construction in April of 2024, which would allow for procurement and time for equipment and supplies to arrive.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, Mrs. Bruce.
Mr. Pratt?
Following up on Craig's first question about your job with DSD, how many of them 325 megawatts that you guys have you been involved with from this point through completion?
So since starting in December of 2021, I have a portfolio of 65 projects. I'm unsure of the megawattage, and none of them are in operation yet. I have 16 that are very close, which estimate to be about 12 megawatts total, and they will be operational by the end of the summer. But the process to develop, design, permit, construct, and operate takes between a year and a half to 2 years in the market that we're in right now. I'm almost there.
So will you be the contact person for the entirety of this project?
The entire development of this project, yes. When it enters construction, we will have a construction project manager that is an expert at what they do, and they will oversee the boots on the ground team, the subcontractor. There will be a phone number on the sign and a point of contact identified to be contacted during construction. And once the project is concluded construction and is operational, it's handed off to our asset management team, and they handle the oversight of all operational assets.
So there will be absolutely no employees, local employees employed by your company, correct?
It is an unmanned facility once operational, yes.
So talk to me a little bit about this agrovoltaics or latics,
Agrivoltaics.
voltaics.
Mhm.
Explain that to me.
Sure. Within the exact footprint of the facility, so within the fence line of our project site, approximately 30 acres, there will be the panels themselves, which comprise the voltaic part, photovoltaic, we took the second half of the word, and agricultural operations. So the panels are spaced to either allow for agricultural equipment to go between the panels and allow for row crops to grow, or grazing can occur where they're set a certain distance off the ground, a minimum clearance of 3 feet as they rotate and follow the sun, and allow for sheep grazing within the facility footprint.
So do you have a specific plan that sheep or corn?
We have not specified. We are in discussion with the landowner and discussing, but before we've secured a special use permit, we haven't gone far enough down the road to finalize the design and to select the approach.
So if you have sheep and no employees, explain that.
We spoke to the tenant farmer, and there was a discussion about the concern with equipment, agricultural equipment near the panels. So we talked about sheep, and he seemed interested, but there's a variety of options. You would use a local farmer.
Okay. So then on your exhibit petitioner exhibit number 1, you make the statement in here, timing is subject to permitting approval process. Community Solar Incentive Program qualification. So are you saying you don't have that qualification yet?
We can't apply for the incentive program until we've secured the land use permit, which is the special use permit. So this is the first step of the process. Once we secure a special use permit, we can apply for the Illinois Adjustable Block Program and try to secure our incentive. And simultaneously, we're awaiting our approval from ComEd for the interconnection.
That was my next question. So have you ever had one in Illinois approved for the Community Solar Incentive Program
Yes, we do have other projects approved under the Adjustable Block Program.
in Illinois?
Yes, sir.
That's all I got, Judge.
Okay. Ms. Huss?
Can it be assumed that within your application material provided, any mention of Amboy 1 should be interpreted as Amboy 2?
Yes.
Thank you. On behalf of the applicant, do you agree to be bound by any and all proposals, representations contained, and representations contained within the petition application and any testimony made under oath during this public hearing?
Yes.
Does DSD commit to retaining ownership of Amboy IL Solar 2 LLC for the life of the project?
That is our intention. Yes.
Although no lighting is foreseen, should there be any utilized, will it be shielded and downcast?
Yes.
You stated that your community meeting proposed a site layout plan and location that differs from your application material, correct?
Yes.
When was that change made?
Was changed immediately following the community information meeting based on feedback from those in attendance.
So the notice that was published by local Shaw and mailed to the non-participating adjacent landowners contains the correct location of the SES?
Regarding this meeting, yes.
This meeting. As it is presented in this meeting, that is what was mailed to the non-participating adjacent landowners.
Yes.
Okay. The equipment, agriculture equipment storage and the storage areas that are referenced in C300 and C400, will those have concrete pads?
No.
What will be the foundation of them?
I believe the plan is just to use packed earth.
Okay.
No gravel was proposed.
In your site plans, do you have you detailed the connection and interconnection lines of the project?
I don't believe that level of detail has been developed yet.
Okay, and for those lines, how deeply will they be buried?
I'm not sure.
In other projects, how deep have the interconnection lines been buried?
It's typically varied based on the results of the geotech, but I've seen them buried anywhere between 1 foot and 4 feet deep.
Okay. Have you submitted an interconnection application with ComEd?
Yes.
Will the project be located, designed, constructed, and operated to avoid and mitigate any impacts on wildlife?
Yes.
And you are familiar with the fund requirements in the ordinance, correct?
Yes.
And you understand that the Lee County engineer sets that?
Yes.
If there were to be drain tile that was damaged during construction or operation, within what time frame do you commit to having repaired that tile?
If we damaged a drainage tile during construction, the situation would be assessed and responded to within 2 business days.
You are also familiar with the repowering provisions of the ordinance and the decommissioning requirement, correct?
Yes.
Is it your testimony that no employees will park on Amboy or Peru Road during construction of the project?
Yes.
Do you understand that under section 10-2A-3 of the Lee County Code, the zoning administrator will revoke an approved special use permit if a building permit has not been secured within 3 years from the date of the special use being granted?
Yes.
You referenced a LISA score during your testimony, correct?
Yes.
Is it safe to assume then that you are familiar with the Lee County Soil and Water Conservation District Natural Resource Information Report?
Yes.
And you received this on or around May 10th, correct?
Yes.
And you read it,
Yes.
reviewed it?
Yes.
What is your opinion on how you will mitigate the concerns that were raised within the report, specifically pertaining to the soil-based and ballast-based solar array anchoring system concerns?
I will need to consult with my civil engineer and get back to you on that one.
Will you also need to consult with him as it pertains to the corrosiveness of the steel, the soil's corrosiveness of the steel that's represented within the report,
Yes.
as well as the shallow excavations that are pointed out within the report?
Yes.
After conferring with your environmental partner, based on what your testimony is and what you come back with, do you agree that an Illinois licensed civil engineer with whatever your plan is will stamp your process proposed
Yes.
and you will submit it to the Lee County Zoning Office?
Yes.
Okay, that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. How about interested parties? We'll do the courtroom first. Either you gentlemen have any questions? Apparently not. How about Zoomers? We got any questions by Zoom? Click the participant icon at the bottom and then click raise hand. You gotta tell me, Jonathan. Okay. Well, I have some questions, but it'll be a lot fewer than often. You said at one point that you did a Hargis survey and there were no historic resources within 4 miles. But doesn't your PowerPoint say within 2 miles? I don't care. I just want to get whichever it is correct.
Sorry. Yes, sir. My PowerPoint says 2 miles, and I should specify that the nearest one was identified at 4.1 miles away.
Okay. I think I just missed this, but the tracker supports would be driven auger, screwed, or pile driven, correct?
Auger or pile driven, yes, sir.
And then how deep?
On average, it's typically between 7 and 10 feet, but it
Yeah,
would
that's-
depend on the results of the geotech survey.
What did you say would be, what kind of pad would be packed earth?
The agricultural equipment storage pad that's on
Okay.
the figures.
And
Is
you said
not
that would be a structure, right?
Nope, no structures proposed. It's
Well, what
ju-
did you say with regard to a place to house landscaping equipment?
It's just a location that's left occupied by SES specific equipment, but within the fenced area.
But that would not, if I understand correctly, that would not be used as a laydown?
It may be used as a laydown. It just was not specifically called out on any of the drawings as a construction laydown. It was intended for the association with maintenance during operation.
But if it was laid down, it would be temporary, right?
It would be temporary during construction, yes, sir.
And do you have a copy of your application materials? I call it the bound volume.
I don't have a copy of that, no, sir.
Okay, if I handed you one,
Thank you.
these are just questions to clear up some things. I think it's tab A. Behind tab A is an order confirmation from Shaw Media and Sauk Valley Media.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a certificate of publication?
I received the proof, which is the second page of the Shaw Media.
That's just an order confirmation, isn't it? I asked you, did you receive a certificate of publication?
No, sir.
Okay. To what newspaper does that relate, if you know?
I do not know the name of the newspaper off the top of my head.
Does Dixon Telegraph sound familiar? Or not?
No, sir.
Okay. Fair. In your application material, there's a document titled, I think it's behind the same tab. It's titled Notice of Public Hearing with an presumably attached Exhibit A, which I think is probably the meets and bounds description of the project parcel. Then the page after that, an item in your material refers to associated notification. Those USPS certified mail receipts, did they relate to the sending of that notice of hearing and that exhibit to which it's attached to it?
Yes.
And were they sent to all entities owning property adjacent to or within 1,000 feet of any boundary point of the proposed SES?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. If you go to any one of your schematics, and I really don't care which one, for a reader, would you agree that, well, am I correct that the schematic in its original form is probably much larger?
Yes, the schematics were developed, I believe, in 24 by 36.
So when it was shrunk, the scale of 1 inch to 120 feet, if somebody was trying to measure something, that would be thrown off, correct?
It could be thrown off, yes. The scale doesn't look like it matches a 24 by 36 image.
Down at the bottom, however, the black and white barred line, that scale should remain the same though. Is that correct?
I believe if the image has been reshaped to be longer and shorter, then the whole scale would be thrown off.
Okay. Your application, this is really minor, but your application material reads the size of the project parcel is 157 acres. But would you agree that it's noted in on one or more of the schematics that it's 157.95 acres, which is really closer to 158, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Do you know, and maybe this is a question for another witness, why your application indicates the project parcel is about 157 acres, but TRC's wetland and waterway determination report indicates that it analyzed 149 acres?
I believe the boundary we gave TRC had a larger setback around the property in the notch, the house property. But I would have to compare the two boundaries to see where the slight discrepancy occurred.
Your application notes that you sent notices to community, of the community meeting by certified mail to the Lee County Board, the Marion Township Board. Was it sent to, one notice sent to each board at its common address or to each board member? If you know.
I believe it was sent to specific board members.
Is there proof anywhere of the certified mailings of the community meeting?
I don't believe it's included in the application. However, it can be provided.
And again, I don't know how good your eyes are. On any of the schematics, can you better describe where is shown the ComEd transmission line? There's a key on there and it says it's a line and then it says OE. But without a magnifying glass or a microscope. And if you don't know where it is,
There's a proposed POI feeder. It looks like we
Yep.
identified a specific pole. The number is B645, but it is just proposed until ComEd concurs. It is just north of the spur of the access road.
yeah.
If you follow the access road and there's a parallel OE that goes to where an arrow
Thank you.
points. Sure.
Is that To the best of your knowledge, the only transmission line going through the project parcel?
Believe it's distribution, but yes.
Yeah, I'm
Judge.
sorry.
Mhm.
Yep. And I know you said, but to what depth would the access road base be scraped down to?
A minimum of 12 inches.
What would be 1 to 4 inches?
1 to 4 inches of clean gravel will be placed on.
And what would be underneath that? Is that the top,
It's
the
1 minute.
top level?
A non-woven geotextile fabric.
Would there be any signage on the fence other than the signage you described on the gate?
No.
And again, you said the 3 specs that were shown in your application materials were, at least at the time, this time, specific to this project's plans.
Correct, yes.
Are you aware of the nearest approach zone for any airport or airstrip?
I am not aware of the specific approach zones.
If you know, when there are workers actually constructing the SES, would they go to the site in their personal vehicles, or do you somehow get them in a group vehicle?
Sometimes they drive the personal vehicles, sometimes they meet up at an agreed location and carpool.
Is there room at the site to park all those individual vehicles?
We estimated, I think, between 10 and 15 per day, whether they be individuals or carpooling.
Okay. Oh, that includes carpooling, okay.
That's correct, for daily manpower during construction, and we believe there is enough space to allow for that parking within the project site.
The security cameras that you say will be aimed at the pads, those cameras rotate?
I'm unaware of whether or not they rotate. If they are able to rotate, they will not point at adjacent residences
Or roads?
or roads, yes.
You did not have a noise study conducted, is that correct?
Correct, we did not have a noise study done.
Oh, how would the PV panels be cleaned?
Just by the rain?
Mother Nature?
Yes, Judge.
Are there any permanent structures presently existing on the project parcel?
Just an existing irrigation system?
Did you say if you knew how many construction and associated construction jobs would be created by siting and building the project?
I do not know that answer.
Would either DSD or Amboy Illinois Solar to give any direct community benefits to the area?
Just tax payments associated with the project improvement.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I had. Any follow-up, any redirect? Sure. How many more witnesses do you have? Okay. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do then is, yeah, you may step down, thank you. You can do that while I call Ms. Duffy. Just to save. Got it. As soon as she gets done with us, thank you. Off the record, are they taking all your 3-ring binders, Mrs. Duffy? Are these people like keeping them?
I don't have one. Don't look at me.
Right, Craig?
All right, back on the record. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And you can start with your name.
Dee Duffy.
And Ms. Duffy, what's your business or occupation?
I am the Lee County Zoning Administrator.
And in your capacity as the Lee County Zoning Administrator, is one of your duties to keep documents in your office relevant to requests for special use permit?
Yes, I do.
And have you assembled for this particular hearing a list of those documents?
I have.
And you have marked it as what? Petition, or ZO exhibit?
ZO Exhibit 1 through 10.
Okay, would you go through those and tell us what they are, please?
Sure. ZO Exhibit number 1 is a copy of the file stamped petition. ZO number 2 is a copy of the community meeting notice sent by certified mail to the Lee County Board, the zoning administrator, the Marion Township Board, and all persons who own real estate within the minimum of 1,000 feet of the proposed solar project boundary. ZO number 3 is a copy of the information packet handed out at the community meeting on March 8th, 2023. ZO number 4 are copies of the USPS tracking numbers to show certified mail receipts of the property owners adjacent to the boundaries of the proposed development. ZO number 5 is a copy of the notice newspaper publication on May 4th, 2023, and a copy of the payment receipt. ZO number 6 is copies of the notice sent from the zoning office to the District 1 County Board members, Lee County Health Department, Lee County Engineer and Highway Supervisor, the Lee County's Soil and Water Conservation District Office, the Marion Township Supervisor, and the Marion Township Highway Commissioner. ZO number 7 is a copy of the email from the Lee County Health Department stating no objections to the proposed project and no other communications were received by the zoning office from notices that were mailed from the zoning office. ZO number 8 is a copy of notices that were posted on site of the proposed project on May 5th, 2023. The zoning hearing agenda noticing petition displayed on the bulletin board on the third floor of the old Lee County Courthouse on May 22nd, 2023, and the zoning hearing agenda posted on May 22nd, 2023 in the agenda center of the county website. ZO number 9 is a copy of the Soil and Water Conservation District's report for the ground upon which the proposed development would lay. And ZO number 10 is a copy of a letter sent on April 28, 2023 to the Zoning Board of Appeals members from Mr. David Lyons, owner of the property of the proposed project that would be located on, stating that Mr. Lyons had entered into a lease agreement with Amboy Solar IL2 LLC and how Mr. Lyons is in full support of the proposed solar project. And that's all I have.
Questions of this witness, Ms. Sesser? Jonathan? Okay, Ms. Henkel?
None, thank you.
ZBA, Mr. Forster?
No questions.
Mr. Burrow?
No question.
Mr. Pratt?
So your exhibit ZO number 6, the letter announcing this meeting, tell me again who you mailed that all to?
They were mailed to the county board members
In,
in District 1,
oh, okay.
which Marion Township lies in within District
So how many would that be?
5.
5 of them? Okay. That's what I need.
Okay, Ms. Huss?
Was it only the sanitation department that you received a response from?
Yes.
That's all. Thank you.
You don't have any questions, do you, Ms. Culbertson?
No questions.
Okay. You may step down, thank you.
Interested parties?
Oh, interested parties, I'm sorry, thank you, Dee. Gee, gentlemen, either of you have any questions of Ms. Duffy? People on Zoom, Zoomers, any questions? Click raise hand. Participant, raise hand. None? Okay, now you can step down. Anybody else you want me to ask? Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Ball's back in your court, Ms. Culbertson.
We would like, you ready? Yeah, Jackie, back on the stand to,
Okay.
just to clarify some of the answers that were questions that came up from the county board, or I'm sorry, from the ZBA. Got ahead of myself.
You may inquire.
All right, ready? Okay. First, it's correct that when the lines that we discussed that we buried 3 feet or deeper, correct?
That's correct.
And some questions were asked about the Lee County, soil report, and I apologize for not having the full name in front of me. And about the corrosiveness of the steel, correct?
Yes.
Can you discuss that further?
Sure. The corrosivity verified with field sampling will need to be accounted for in the design of the tracker foundations and concrete pads. This can be mitigated with thicker galvanizing and corrosion-resistant concrete.
And there was also a question about shallow excavations. Can you elaborate on how that will be dealt with.
The soils are mapped as loams, which will likely have unstable excavation walls, and there is shallow groundwater at the site. This may make trenching of cables require a wider trench or sloped walls to prevent cave-in or dewatering if the trenches won't drain.
No further questions.
Is corrosivity really a word? I'm just asking. I never heard it before. Is that what you call it?
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Okay, okay, thanks. Hey, questions? Just a minute. Ms. Sasser? Ms. Duffy? Ms. Henkel? Mr. Forster?
No.
Mr. Burrow?
No.
Mr. Pratt?
So you mentioned the high water table and the burying the wires. You still commit to burying them at least 3 foot deep, no matter what the water table does to you?
Yes, sir.
No question, no further question.
Ms. Huss?
Do you have anything to add to the 59% limited for both of the anchoring systems that are discussed inside of the report? If you, okay, could you have the Lisa report, or the report? Do you have that?
I have a summary of the report.
And on there, does it discuss the 59% limited for both anchoring systems, of solar arrays, the ballast anchoring system, and the soil anchoring system?
Yes.
And what is the recommendation listed for that issue?
It looks like the rating is driven by frost action, which may require a deeper pile embedment than a comparable soil with low frost action. The actual embedment depths will be determined through a geotechnical evaluation.
Will major changes be made to the soil based on the findings of the limited ability to mount or to affix such systems into the soil?
Can you repeat the question?
Will major changes be required to the soil to accommodate for these limited ability within the soil? So it's a 59% limited for both anchoring types. Will major changes of the soil be required?
No.
And there's a 41% rating with the ponding. What is the recommendation for that?
It's expected that if the existing drain tiles are maintained, the project area will continue to drain as it currently does.
So there, it doesn't, you do not currently foresee a need for additional drain tiles on the parcel?
No.
Okay. And any changes that are made or recommended will be done by an Illinois licensed civil engineer and provided to the Lee County zoning officer and administrator, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, Becker, on any follow-up? Wait a minute, no, that's wrong. Interested parties, either you gentlemen have questions of this witness? Apparently not. How about Zoomers? Click participants, raise hand. Okay, back around.
No further questions.
You may step down, thank you. Further evidence, Ms. Culbertson.
No.
Okay. We're at the point where interested parties can present any evidence they want. This is the time for testimony under oath, either yourself or a witness of your calling. Do either of you gentlemen here in the courtroom have any evidence you want to present? Got one no, the other gentleman's shaking his head. Okay, how about on Zoom? If you've got evidence to present, now's the time. Seeing none, that closes the evidence, and I admit petitioners exhibits number 1 and 2 and ZO 1 through 10. And we have concluded the taking of the evidence. Unless I hear a good reason otherwise, I'm ready to have the ZBA hear any closing arguments, public comments. And If you're ready, Ms. Culbertson, have at it.
Sure, I will be very brief. First of all, thank you very much for your time tonight and your consideration of our application. We believe that the evidence that we've presented tonight shows that this project and proposed SES is in compliance with the requirements of the both the solar ordinance and the Lee County ordinance, and has met the requirements for issuance of a special use permit. We believe that this proposed project furthers the goals of the Lee County Comprehensive Plan. One of the goals being the preservation of agricultural economy and the family farm operation way of life. This will allow increased income to a farmer in the area and allow for the dual use of the property to be both used for this solar facility as well as the agricultural use of the property. This also furthers the goal of encouraging the use of green energies, including solar, that's set forth in the comprehensive plan. We believe this project would be a great benefit to Lee County in general through the increased tax revenue it would receive, and also a benefit to the residents by giving them the option for this solar resource that many would not be able to have otherwise, and for the savings on their monthly utility bill. So thank you again, and thank you for your consideration of our proposal.
Thank you. Interested parties, anybody want to stand up and tell the board what you think they ought to do? Either of you gentlemen? Okay. How about on Zoom? Now's the time. Click participant and raise hand. Give you a few seconds. Okay. Hearing none, seeing none. That closes the evidentiary and public comment stage phase of the hearing. And I then recess this session until next Tuesday. Make sure I'm right, Mrs. Duffy. Tuesday, May 30th, 7 o'clock. Here in the, when the board will engage in finding facts and recommendations. Until then, everybody have a great Memorial Day weekend.